The great hall of the alien fortress was filled with the sound of drums. Rows of tall warriors stood on each side, our armor shining under the blue fire torches. In the center, on a raised platform, stood the High Warlord, a towering figure. With dark silver skin and eyes that glowed like molten gold. In his hands, he held the war-born Mace, a weapon of legend, a symbol of power. And the heart of their ancient tradition. Humans were rare here, and today, only one stood among them. Captain Ryan Cole, a soldier from Earth, had been invited as a guest after helping the alien fleet in a recent battle. He had no idea about their customs, and no one had bothered to explain them fully. Princess Lyra, the warlord's daughter, watched him with curious eyes. She had heard whispers from the elders, a story about an offworlder who would one day hold the mace without fear. It was said that when that happened, the old ways would be tested and the world would change. The ceremony began, the warlord lifting the mace high for all to see. The warriors roared in unison. Hitting their chest armor, Ryan stood silently, unsure what to do. Then, in a sudden moment, Lyra stepped forward. Her eyes locked on his. Without a word, she tossed the mace toward him. It spun through the air, heavy and glowing with strange energy. Everyone expected him to step back or drop to one knee as their tradition demanded. But Ryan didn't know the rule, or maybe he didn't care. His hand shot out, and he caught the mace firmly. The hall fell silent. Every warrior froze. There, hands tightening on their weapons. Even the drums stopped. Ryan looked down at the weapon in his grip, feeling its weight. It was heavier than anything he had held before, yet it seemed to fit perfectly in his hands. A deep hum vibrated through the handle, as if the mace itself recognized him. "You," one of the council elders gasped, his voice trembling. "Drop it." Now, but Ryan didn't. Instead, he turned it slowly in his hands, examining the strange markings carved into the black metal. "What is this thing?" he asked calmly. Looking at Lyra, she didn't answer, her face pale, her eyes wide in disbelief. The High Warlord descended from the platform, each step echoing like thunder. He stopped a few feet away from Ryan, his gaze sharp enough to cut. "Steel, human," he said, his voice low but dangerous. "By our law, you have broken a sacred rule." Ryan frowned, still holding the mace. "I didn't mean to break anything," he replied, "but you threw it to me." The warlord's eyes flickered toward Lyra, who lowered her head but didn't speak. "She tested you," the warlord growled, "and you failed." Murmurs spread through the warriors, some in shock, others in anger. One young warrior whispered, "It is the prophecy." "It must be," another hissed. "No outsider can hold the war-born mace." Ryan heard their words, but didn't understand the full weight behind them. All he knew was that something about the mace felt important, too important to just let go. The warlord extended his massive, clawed hand. "Give it to me now." Ryan hesitated, then shook his head. "No." The word echoed in the silent hall like a blade drawn in the dark. Lyra gasped softly. No one in history had refused the High Warlord. The air grew heavy, the tension almost crushing. Warriors began to circle Ryan, their weapons ready. But there was also fear in their eyes, fear of what this act might mean. "Do you understand what you have done?" the warlord asked slowly. Ryan met his gaze. "I don't think I do," he said honestly. "But maybe you should explain." The warlord's face darkened. "You have claimed the right of the High Warlord." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Claimed it?" "I only caught something you threw," the warlord growled. "You will answer for this before sunset, in the trial of worthiness." Ryan tilted his head. Trial of worthiness. Sounds interesting. The warriors roared in outrage at his casual tone. The warlord pointed to the massive arena doors at the far end of the hall. "You will face the trials," he declared, "and if you survive, you may keep the mace and your life. Ryan looked at the mace in his hands, then back at the warlord. A slow smile spread across his face. "All right," he said. "Let's see what your trials are made of." The hall erupted into shouts. Some in anger, others in excitement. Lyra's heart pounded, whether by fate or by defiance. The first step in the prophecy had just begun. Asterisk. The crowd still roared as Ryan stood in the middle of the great hall, the war-born mace resting in his grip. Alien warriors shouted curses in their own language, some calling for his head, others demanding the trial begin immediately. Ryan's fingers tightened around the weapon, feeling that strange hum of power again. It wasn't just heavy in weight, it was heavy with meaning. A meaning he didn't yet understand. The High Warlord raised one clawed hand, and the hall fell silent instantly. His voice was deep and steady. "The human has taken what belongs only to the warlord." His golden eyes burned into Ryan's. "By law, this is death." The warriors roared their agreement, but the warlord's tone shifted. "Yet, the law also says the one who holds the mace may face the trial of worthiness." A ripple of surprise passed through the crowd. Lyra's lips parted slightly. Her father never offered trials to outsiders. It meant something, though Ryan couldn't tell if it was respect or just a cruel game. "I accept," Ryan said, without hesitation. The hall went still, the sound of his voice echoing against the black stone walls. Some aliens looked at each other in disbelief, others in quiet fear. Ryan had no idea why they were so tense, but he could feel it. The mace was changing the air around him, almost like it was alive. The warlord's massive form stepped closer, his shadow falling over Ryan. "You think yourself strong," the warlord said slowly, "but the trials will strip you bare, body, mind, and spirit." Ryan met his gaze without flinching. "Guess I'll find out." A faint smile tugged at the corners of the warlord's mouth. Though it was gone in a heartbeat, he turned sharply toward the council. "Prepare the trial hall before the sun sets." 2 guards, each nearly twice Ryan's size, stepped forward to take him to the preparation chambers. Their armor clinked with each heavy step, their faces unreadable as they led him out of the hall. Ryan caught Lyra's gaze. Her eyes were full of warning, but also something else. Curiosity, maybe even hope, in that brief moment. She mouthed a single word to him: prophecy. The word lingered in his mind as they moved through long stone corridors lit by flickering blue flames. "What prophecy?" Ryan asked, glancing at the guards. Neither of them answered, keeping their eyes fixed ahead. The air grew colder as they descended deeper into the fortress, the sound of distant machinery echoing in the walls. They reached a heavy metal door, carved with strange alien symbols. One guard entered a code into a glowing panel, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a small, dimly lit chamber. Weapons of all shapes lined the walls: spears, axes, curved blades, and alien devices Ryan couldn't name. The guards gestured for him to enter. "You may choose one weapon to carry into the trial," the taller guard said, his voice deep and harsh. "But you cannot keep the mace until you prove yourself." Ryan looked around at the weapons, but his gaze kept drifting back to the war-born mace still in his hands. "I'll keep this," he said, lifting it slightly. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. "That is against the taller one began, but the other interrupted. "No? The law says if he holds it now, he may face the trials with it." Ryan smirked. "Guess your law's on my side today." As the guards left him alone, Ryan sat on the bench against the wall, turning the mace slowly. The strange markings on it almost seemed to shift in the torchlight. He thought he saw images, warriors, battles, a figure that looked almost human standing among them. A sharp memory hit him, something from his time in the war back on Earth. That same strange humming sound, like an energy pulse, had been in a battlefield once before. He shook the thought away. Now wasn't the time for distractions. Minutes later, the door opened again, and Lyra stepped inside quietly. She moved quickly, her eyes scanning the hall outside before shutting the door. "You don't understand what you've done," she whispered. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You're not the first to say that today." She stepped closer, her voice low. "The mace chooses its bearer. It hasn't chosen anyone outside our bloodline for thousands of years." Ryan leaned back slightly. "So, I'm special." Lyra's eyes narrowed, or doomed. Before he could ask more, the guards returned, their expressions grim. "It's time," one of them said. They led him through another set of massive doors, the air inside smelling of old stone and metal. Ahead, Ryan saw the entrance to a massive underground arena. Its walls lined with black stone and alien carvings. Crowds were already gathering in the stands above, chanting and shouting in their deep, guttural language. Ryan stepped forward, feeling the hum of the mace grow stronger. Somewhere in the shadows, the High Warlord waited for him. Ryan tightened his grip on the mace and smiled faintly. If this was supposed to scare him, it wasn't working. Not yet, but deep down, he could feel it. The real weight of defiance was just beginning. The underground arena stretched out before Ryan like a black stone canyon. Its walls were carved with glowing alien runes, pulsing faintly with blue light. The air was heavy, almost humming with energy, the same strange rhythm that echoed from the war-born mace in his hands. Thousands of alien eyes stared down from the stands above, the sound of their low, rumbling chants rolling like distant thunder. At the far end of the arena, the High Warlord stood on a raised platform, flanked by armored guards. His deep voice carried across the stone floor. "The human will face 3 trials." Each word echoed through the cavernous hall. "If he survives, he keeps the mace and his life." The crowd roared, stamping their feet against the stands until the floor trembled under Ryan's boots. Ryan adjusted his grip on the mace, his eyes sweeping the arena. It was empty for now, but he could see strange shapes beneath the stone floor, like hidden machinery waiting to come alive. Beside him, a gate of thick metal bars rattled open, revealing a narrow stone path leading into the center. Lyra appeared briefly at the edge of the shadows, her eyes meeting his for just a second. Her lips moved without sound, but Ryan understood. "Be careful." A booming horn sounded, and the floor ahead began to shift. Large slabs of black stone slid apart, revealing rows of gleaming blades rising from hidden compartments. They swung back and forth, up and down, spinning on mechanical arms, a shifting forest of metal death. "This is the path of blades," the warlord announced. "Cross it without falling, and you may live to see the next trial." Ryan stepped forward, the hum of the mace steady in his grip. The first few steps were easy. The blades moved slowly, almost as if testing him, but as he moved deeper, the speed increased, the edges whistling through the air with each swing. He ducked under one, sidestepped another, his movements sharp and focused. The alien crowd watched in tense silence. They had seen warriors fall in the first moments before, sliced apart by the unforgiving steel. One blade came from above, another from the side. Ryan dropped to a knee, the mace's heavy head slamming against the floor. The vibration through the stone gave him an idea. He tapped the mace against the path again. Feeling the faint tremor through the ground, it was like the weapon was telling him the rhythm of Comwar. A rhythm of the moving traps, step, duck, slide. He moved with precision. Every few meters, he paused, reading the vibrations before moving again. The blade still came dangerously close, slicing the edge of his jacket, nicking the skin on his arm, but he kept going, refusing to stop. From the stands, some of the alien warriors began to shout, their voices no longer mocking, but almost impressed. Halfway through, the path narrowed. Here, the blades were closer together, and the floor itself shifted like a wave under his feet. Ryan tightened his jaw and pushed forward, leaping over a swinging axe just as the floor dipped beneath him. The mace's hum grew stronger, and for a moment, he swore the weapon pulled him slightly in the right direction. It wasn't luck, it was guiding him. Finally, with a last burst of speed, he dove forward, rolling across the final stretch of the path. The crowd erupted in a mix of cheers and angry shouts. Ryan stood, brushing dust from his clothes. Breathing hard but grinning, he lifted the mace slightly toward the stands. "Not bad for a warm-up," he said under his breath. The High Warlord's expression didn't change, but Ryan noticed the faintest tilt of his head. Maybe respect. Maybe calculation. He raised his arm again. And the next gate at the far end of the arena creaked open. From the darkness beyond came a low, rumbling growl that shook the stone floor. The crowd's energy changed instantly. Excitement mixed with fear. Ryan felt the vibrations through the mace again, but this time they were deeper, heavier. Like the heartbeat of something massive, the growl became a roar. And from the shadows emerged the Hrathgar. It was easily twice the height of any alien warrior, covered in thick, plated scales. Its tusked jaws dripped with saliva, and its four-clawed arms scraped against the arena floor as it moved. Its yellow eyes locked on Ryan, and it began to charge, the ground shaking with each step. Ryan spun the mace in his hands, planting his feet. He had passed the first trial, but this second one was about to be a whole different fight. Above, Lyra leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of the stand. The prophecy had spoken of a human who could tame what no alien could. She didn't know if that moment was about to happen, or if Ryan was about to die. Asterisk, the Hrathgar's roar echoed through the arena, a sound so deep it seemed to shake the bones. Its massive claws scraped against the stone as it charged, each step sending a shockwave through the ground. The crowd roared with it, their voices blending into one deafening storm of noise. Ryan tightened his grip on the warborn mace, feeling its strange hum growing louder. Almost urgent, the beast's tusked jaws snapped shut just inches from him, the wind of its breath hot against his face. Ryan sidestepped, the mace's heavy head smashing against the thick scales of its shoulder. The blow was strong, but the Hrathgar barely flinched. It swung one massive arm, the claws slicing through the air, forcing Ryan to roll across the dusty floor. From the stands, the High Warlord watched with sharp eyes. This trial was not meant for victory, it was meant to break challengers. No one had ever bested the Hrathgar without losing blood, limb, or life. Yet something about the human's movements caught his attention. Ryan circled the beast, keeping his distance every time it lunged. He stepped just far enough to avoid its reach. The mace hummed in his hands, almost like it was warning him before each strike. He realized it wasn't just reacting to him, it was reacting to the beast. The Hrathgar roared again, its plated tail swinging like a massive whip. Ryan ducked low, the tail smashing into the stone wall behind him, sending shards flying. He didn't try to match the beast's brute strength, he couldn't. Instead, he focused on its patterns, its rhythm. Every creature had one. Even this monster. He tapped the mace against the ground once. Twice, the vibrations came back to him. Not from the arena floor this time, but from the creature itself. Its heart was pounding in a steady, powerful beat. Ryan began to move in time with it, stepping where the beast didn't expect him to be. The crowd noticed. At first, they thought it was luck, but soon, warriors in the stands leaned forward, realizing the human was dodging blows with unnatural precision. The Hrathgar lunged again, its jaws snapping where Ryan's head had been a heartbeat before. Ryan slammed the mace into the ground, sending a shockwave of dust between them. The beast hesitated, blinking against the sudden cloud. Ryan stepped closer, not to strike, but to hold out his free hand. Palm open, the arena went silent. No one had ever approached the Krathgur like that. It growled low, its massive head lowering toward him. The mace still hummed. A steady tone now. Ryan kept his eyes locked on the creatures, his breathing slow and steady. Lyra's heart pounded as she gripped the edge of the balcony. This was madness. A human couldn't calm the Krathgar, and yet the prophecy's words echoed in her mind. He will face the beast, and the beast will bow. The Krathgar's growl faded into a deep rumble. Its nostrils flared, taking in Ryan's scent. Then, with a movement that made the crowd gasp, it lowered itself to the ground, folding its forearms beneath it. The massive head bowed, tusks scraping the stone. The High Warlord's golden eyes narrowed. He had seen many warriors try to tame the Krathgar. All had failed. But this human had done it without a single killing blow. It was not strength, but something else, something more dangerous to the old ways. Ryan took a step back. Lowering the mace, the beast rose slowly and moved aside, clearing the path to the next gate. The crowd was split, half cheering in awe, half shouting in outrage. Mercy was not a virtue in their culture, yet they had all just witnessed the beast submit. The warlord raised his voice over the noise. The human passes the second trial. The words rolled across the arena like thunder. Ryan simply nodded, wiping dust from his face. He didn't celebrate. His eyes were already on the next gate. Behind him, Lyra allowed herself the faintest smile. It wasn't just luck. She knew it now. The mace had chosen him. But with that choice came danger, because if Ryan survived the third trial, alien tradition itself would be forced to change, and there were many in the council who would never allow that. The gate at the far end groaned open. The warlord stepped forward onto the arena floor. No guards, no ceremony, just him. The most feared warrior of his people. He drew a massive blade from his back, its edge glowing with faint heat. His voice was cold and steady. The final trial is mine to give. Ryan spun the mace once in his hand, a small grin tugging at his lips. Good, he said. I was hoping we'd get to talk up close. The crowd erupted once more, the sound like a storm trapped inside. The stone walls, the third and final trial, a duel of beliefs, was about to begin. The arena floor felt heavier now, not because of the stone, but because of the silence that followed the warlord's challenge. Thousands of alien eyes fixed on the human and the ruler. One had the warborn mace, the other held the blade of sovereigns, a weapon said to have ended wars before Ryan's people had even walked the stars. The warlord took slow, deliberate steps forward, his presence filling the space. He moved like a predator, every step calculated, every muscle ready. Ryan adjusted his grip on the mace. His stance loose but balanced, neither spoke for a moment. The air between them charged like the calm before a lightning strike. When the warlord finally moved, it was fast, faster than Ryan expected. The glowing blade cut through the air in a wide arc, and Ryan barely blocked it. The impact sent a shock up his arms, the mace ringing like a struck bell. The crowd roared, their voices rising with each clash of metal and energy. You do not understand what you hold, the warlord growled between strikes. Ryan blocked again, sparks flying. Then, explain it to me. The warlord's golden eyes narrowed. It is the soul of my people. You carry it as if it were just a weapon. Ryan stepped back, circling. Maybe it's more than a weapon. Maybe it's a bridge. The warlord attacked again, his blade a blur. Ryan ducked under one strike and swung the mace upward, the heavy head smashing against the warlord's forearm guard. The metal dented, but the warlord didn't slow. They traded blow for blow, each testing the other's strength. The crowd was no longer shouting insults. They were watching with raw focus. Ryan began to notice something. The mace reacted differently with each strike, sometimes vibrating, sometimes sending a pulse through his grip. It was almost as if it was showing him where to move. One pulse, step left, another pulse. Block high, he followed the rhythm, and slowly the warlord's attacks began to lose their edge. Still, the alien ruler was powerful. A sudden feint caught Ryan off guard, the blade slicing across his side. It wasn't deep, but it burned like fire. Ryan staggered but refused to drop the mace. The crowd gasped, sensing the fight reaching its breaking point. The warlord paused, his breathing heavy but steady. "You fight well for an outsider," he said, his voice quieter now. Ryan tightened his jaw. "I'm not fighting to win a title. I'm fighting so we stop looking at each other like enemies." The warlord tilted his head, a faint flicker of curiosity in his gaze. "And if you lose?" he asked. Ryan gave a half smile. "Then, at least I tried." The warlord's next attack was his strongest yet, a downward strike meant to end the fight. Ryan raised the mace, and for the first time it unleashed a burst of energy. A wave of force rippled through the arena, knocking the warlord back several steps. The crowd erupted in chaos. They had never seen the mace used that way. Even Lyra stood frozen, her eyes wide in shock. Ryan stepped forward, the mace still humming with power. The warlord's blade was on the ground now, knocked from his grip. Ryan could have ended it a single swing, and the duel would be his without question. Instead, he lowered the mace and kicked the blade back toward the warlord. The alien ruler looked at him in silence for a long moment, then slowly picked it up. The crowd murmured in confusion. Mercy again, twice in the trials. To them, mercy was weakness, yet somehow, this human still stood. The warlord finally spoke, his voice carrying over the noise. "You fight with strength, but you lead with something my people do not understand. Respect." Ryan nodded. Maybe that's what the mace wanted to find. The warlord studied him for a moment longer, then gave a single nod. But before he could speak again, movement stirred in the shadows of the council's platform. Several armed figures stepped forward, their weapons aimed at Ryan and the warlord. Both Lyra's voice cut through the noise, sharp with warning. "Father, they mean to strike." The arena's atmosphere shifted instantly. The duel was over, but the real fight was about to begin. Ryan tightened his grip on the mace, his side still bleeding. The warlord stepped to his side, ready to face the new threat together above them. The council's plot had finally come into the open, and the entire arena was about to turn into a battlefield. Asterisk. The first shot came from above, a streak of burning light that hissed past Ryan's shoulder. It slammed into the arena floor, exploding into shards of stone. The crowd screamed and scattered, warriors leaping over the stands as chaos broke out. Ryan spun toward the source, spotting cloaked figures on the council's balcony. Weapons raised, the warlord barked an order, his voice thundering over the noise. "Protect the champion." But the attackers didn't aim only for Ryan. They aimed for the warlord too. It wasn't just an assassination attempt. It was a coup. More bolts of energy streaked through the air, some striking the stone pillars, others hitting unlucky guards. Ryan ducked behind a broken section of wall, gripping the warborn mace tightly. Lyra's voice called from the shadows near a side gate. "This way." Ryan didn't hesitate, sprinting toward her as the warlord's elite guards formed a wall to hold back the attackers. Lyra led him into a narrow corridor beneath the arena stands. The sound of battle faded into muffled echoes as they descended. Deeper into the fortress, Ryan's boots pounded against the stone floor, the air growing colder with each step. "What's going on up there?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra didn't slow. "The council fears you and what you represent." She glanced back at him, her expression tense. "If you survived all 3 trials, tradition would have to change. They will kill you before they let that happen. They turned down another dark hallway lit by flickering blue torches. Behind them, distant shouts and footsteps grew louder. "They're coming," Ryan muttered. Lyra's jaw tightened. "Then we have to reach the lower tunnels. There's an old way out beneath the fortress." They reached a heavy door, covered in dust and strange carvings. Lyra pressed her hand against a glowing panel beside it, the stone grinding as it slowly slid open. Inside was a small chamber, the walls lined with ancient murals. Ryan stopped for a moment, staring at one of the carvings. It showed a human figure, unmistakably human, holding the same war-born mace. He stepped closer, running his hand over the rough lines. "This is Earth's history." Lyra shook her head. "No." Hours before Ryan could ask more, the sound of armored boots echoed down the hall behind them. Lyra grabbed his arm, pulling him through a hidden passage at the back of the chamber. The tunnel was narrow and damp, the ceiling low enough that Ryan had to duck. The air smelled of old stone and rust. They moved quickly, their footsteps echoing in the darkness. Every few turns, Lyra checked behind them, her sharp ears catching sounds Ryan couldn't. "They're splitting up," she whispered. "Some are trying to cut us off ahead." Ryan tightened his grip on the mace, the hum vibrating faintly in his palm. "We'll make it," he said, though he wasn't sure if it was for her or for himself. They reached a wider chamber where 3 tunnels split in different directions. Lyra hesitated, looking between them. "This way," she started, but Ryan held up a hand. The mace's hum grew stronger as he faced the left tunnel. He didn't know why, but it felt right. Lyra frowned. "That's not the main path." Ryan gave a small shrug. "Maybe that's why they won't expect us." They took the left tunnel, the walls curving downward. The air grew warmer, a faint orange glow appearing ahead. Soon they stepped into a vast underground cavern, the ceiling dripping with stalactites. A river of molten rock flowed through the center, casting shifting shadows across the stone. A narrow bridge of black metal crossed it, and on the far side was another sealed gate. Halfway across the bridge, the attackers appeared at the other end. 6 of them, all in dark armor, their weapons glowing. "Run!" Lyra shouted. Ryan didn't need to be told twice. They sprinted across as the rebels opened fire, bolts of energy striking the bridge and sending sparks into the molten river below. One shot grazed Ryan's arm, but he kept going when they reached the gate. Lyra pressed her hand to another panel, but nothing happened. "It's locked from the other side," she hissed. The rebels were almost on them now, their boots clanging against the bridge. Ryan stepped in front of Lyra, the mace held high. It pulsed once, hard, and a shockwave of blue light erupted from it. The blast hit the rebels like a wall, sending them flying backward into the molten river. The heat flared, and then silence returned, broken only by the hiss of molten rock. Lyra stared at him, eyes wide. "The mace. It's awakening," Ryan exhaled, lowering it. "Guess it likes me." She gave a faint, tense smile. "That may be what scares them most." The gate ahead finally slid open with a heavy grind, revealing the night sky beyond. Cool air rushed in, carrying the scent of the alien forests outside the fortress, but Ryan knew they weren't safe yet. The council's reach would not end at the fortress walls, and the final confrontation was still to come. The alien forest stretched out in every direction, lit only by the pale light of 2 moons. Massive trees with silver leaves swayed in the cold wind, their branches creaking like whispers in the dark. Ryan and Lyra moved quickly along a narrow path, the warborn mace still in his grip. Every step away from the fortress brought them closer to safety, but also closer to whatever came next. Behind them, distant horns sounded deep and urgent. "They've realized we escaped," Lyra said, her voice low but steady. Ryan glanced back but kept moving. "Then we make this count." She nodded, though her eyes stayed fixed ahead. The path led toward a ridge where the alien city below came into view. A sprawl of black stone towers lit with blue fire as they neared the ridge. Movement flickered among the shadows ahead. Figures stepped out from behind the trees, rebels. In dark armor, blocking the way, their leader, a tall alien with a jagged scar across his face, stepped forward. "You carry a power that doesn't belong to you, human," he said, his voice sharp with contempt. "Give us the mace, and we may let you live." Ryan's fingers tightened around the weapon, its hum rising as if sensing the threat. "Not going to happen," he replied. The leader's expression twisted. "Then you die here, and the old ways remain." At his signal, the rebels spread out, weapons raised. Lyra stepped beside Ryan, her blade drawn. "You won't face them alone." The first shots came fast. Blue streaks of energy slicing through the night air. Ryan ducked and swung the mace, the heavy head slamming into the ground. A wave of force rolled outward, knocking two rebels off their feet. Lyra moved with precision, her blade cutting through. Another attacker's weapon arm. The battle turned chaotic. Ryan blocked a spear strike with the mace's handle before countering with a heavy swing that sent the attacker flying. The hum of the mace grew louder, faster, each pulse guiding his movements. He stopped thinking about where to strike. He simply knew. The scarred leader charged at him, a curved blade in each hand. Their weapons clashed again and again, sparks flying. "You're a fool," the leader snarled. "This fight isn't yours." Ryan gritted his teeth, pushing back with a surge of strength. It is now. With a final swing, the mace connected with the leader's chest, sending him crashing into a tree. The rebel groaned, but did not rise. The remaining attackers hesitated. Glancing between each other, Ryan took a step forward, the mace glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Go," he said, his voice low but carrying. One by one, they backed away into the shadows until the forest was silent again. Lyra sheathed her blade, breathing hard. "You could have killed them," she said softly. Ryan shrugged. "Killing them wouldn't change their minds, but letting them walk might." She gave a small, knowing smile. "That's why the mace chose you." They continued toward the city, slipping through the lower gates before dawn. By the time they reached the Grand Hall, word of the battle had spread. The warlord was there, standing before the gathered warriors and council members. When he saw Ryan, a flicker of relief crossed his face. Though his voice remained steady, "The human has returned, alive." The hall erupted in shouts, some cheering, others furious. The High Warlord raised a hand for silence. He faced the trials, the beast, and even the blades of rebellion, and he still holds the war-born mace. His gaze swept the room. "By our law and by our honor, he is champion of the mace." Ryan stepped forward, holding the mace upright. "I'm not here to rule you," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "I'm here so maybe, one day, our people stop fighting each other." There was a long pause, the crowd shifting uneasily. Then, slowly, the warlord knelt, placing a fist against the floor. One by one, the warriors followed, their voices rising in a chant of Ryan's name. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes bright. "Tradition will remember this day," she whispered. Ryan looked at the mace, the hum soft and steady now. For the first time since he had caught it in that hall, he loosened his grip. He offered it back to the warlord, but the alien ruler shook his head. "It is yours now, by right and by choice." Ryan took a slow breath, the weight of the moment sinking in. The human who wasn't supposed to hold the mace had not only kept it, he had changed what it meant. And as the chants grew louder, echoing through the alien city, Ryan realized this was only the beginning of something much bigger.